Hello and welcome. Tonight, ECOWAS network of anti-corruption holds its General Assembly in Abuja, considers strengthening laws to ease asset recovery, especially stolen ones in the sub-region. After a long and winding road, the Supreme Court is set to give judgment in the governorship election tussle in Bayelsa and Kogi State, reserves judgments for a date to be communicated to the parties. And devastating loss as family of 5 in Sokoto die after mistakenly consuming fertilizers. State government describes incident as tragic.
On business news tonight, NNPC Limited confirms plans to roll out premium motor spirit from Port Harcourt refinery by September after multiple postponements.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's under-20 women's football team settles in Colombia capital Bogota well ahead of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, which will kick off on August the 31st in the country.
And from the nation's capital, residents of Ibeno local government area in Akwa Ibom State protest following pollution of their communities in the council area after a major oil spill that is causing harm to their land and river.
And in international news from London, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said now is probably the best and maybe the last opportunity to secure a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is restating the federal government's commitment to curbing corruption and illicit financial flows. The Vice President stated this during the opening of the General Assembly of the Network of Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa in Abuja. He explains that the implementation of anti-corruption laws and granting independence to anti-corruption agencies in the region remains fundamental to addressing the challenge of endemic corruption in the region. Our correspondent, Sarah Achimogu, now reports.
The 6th Annual General Assembly of the Network of Anti-Corruption Institutions in Africa is bringing together heads of anti-corruption agencies in the region, heads of government agencies, development partners, and representatives of development institutions. The focus of the meeting is on implementing the ECOWAS protocol on the fight against corruption towards strengthening institutions for regional unity.
We discovered that there are issues that we still have to work on, particularly in the area of some of our stolen artifacts that were taken to some of the Western countries. That protocol didn't capture that. And we felt these are areas where we need to also develop our own protocol that's peculiar to West Africa so that it will address the needs of West Africa and sub-region.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs shares his concerns on trans-border crime, which cuts across various sectors. He is worried that illicit financial flows in the region stands at over $88 billion annually.
By working together, both regionally and globally, we can create a world where resources are used for the benefit of all, where peace and security are assured, and where the dignity of every African is upheld for the benefit of the entire planet.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is here to declare the meeting open, and he outlined some of the roles that anti-corruption agencies must play to address corruption.
As leaders, we are all responsible for confronting this challenge head-on with unwavering resolve and concerted actions. We have worked hard over the past year to strengthen all the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria by not interfering in their activities and ensuring that they are adequately funded.
The membership of the Regional Anti-Corruption Network includes representatives from the 14 member countries. However, there were no representations from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic at the meeting. Sarah Chimugu, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, is set to deploy artificial intelligence and other machine learning skills to trace, track, and tackle illicit financial flows and other fraudulent activities. The director of the unit, Mrs. Hafsat Bakari, made the disclosure at the opening session of the first management retreat of the unit in Abuja. Mrs. Bakari says the deployment of technology is one of the organization's efforts at building the capacity of the staff to handle modern challenges. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
This is the first management retreat of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, where stakeholders gathered to discuss the fight against money laundering, terrorist financing, and illicit financial flow. Some of those in attendance include the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Mr. Atiku Bagudu, and the Chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, retired General Buba Marwa. There were also representatives from the international organizations.
On the mandate of the NFIU.
In her opening address, the director of the unit, Mrs. Hafsat Bakari, explains efforts to combat illicit financial flow in the country, including the deployment of technology and collaboration with local and foreign partners.
At a global level, we continue to lead Nigeria's efforts to exit the Financial Action Task Force list of jurisdiction under monitoring, the so-called grey list. While we still have some remaining steps to take, I'm confident that with your support, we'll continue all the required steps within the next few months.
The unit is collaborating with several agencies in an effort to combat illicit financial flow. This has yielded several results.
NFIU continues to play a commendable role in coordinating national response to and enhancing capacities of institutional and legal frameworks towards addressing AML, CFT, and CPF regimes in Nigeria.
What NFIU does in terms of safeguarding the financial system so that the distortionary elements that are tiny, that cannot support our dream, are kept at bay and even ring-fenced and punished.
In 2024 alone, we received from the NFIU 76 intelligence reports leading to the discovery of several hidden assets, including hotels, mansions, and bank accounts.
It will be recalled that on February 24, 2023, Nigeria was placed on the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force due to a rise in capital inflows and deficiencies in combating money laundering, terrorism, and arms financing. The stakeholders here are hoping that this collaboration will remove Nigeria from the list by May 2025. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
The Kano State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission, PCACC, has intensified its investigation into a massive procurement scandal involving a staggering 440 million naira. The probe centers on allegations that about 10 million naira was illicitly diverted from each of the 44 local government accounts to Novomed Pharmaceuticals for the purchase of medical supplies, a transaction now under scrutiny for violating public procurement laws. The PCACC, in a letter dated July 18, 2024, summoned several top officials from the Ministry for Local Government to clarify their roles in the transactions. The investigation was triggered by a whistleblower, Dr. Bello Galadanchi, a well-known social media content creator who accused the Kano State government of bypassing due process in awarding the contract to Novomed Pharmaceuticals, leading to the alleged diversion of 10 million naira per local government. In response, Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf denied any knowledge of the alleged diversion and asserted his administration's zero-tolerance stance on corruption. Further, in a joint statement, the Kano State Commissioner for Information, Baba Dantiye, and the governor's spokesman, Sanusi Bature, confirmed that the governor has already ordered an immediate investigation into the matter. The officials named in the PCACC's letter are expected to appear before the commission on Tuesday, August the 20th this year. The president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajero, has been summoned by the Nigeria police over allegations of terrorism financing, treasonable felony, subversion, and cybercrime. A letter signed by Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Adamu Muazu, ordered the NLC president to appear before the Intelligence Response Team for interrogation on Tuesday, August the 20th. The NLC had a week ago raised an alarm over an invasion of its headquarters in Abuja by armed police personnel. The police later confirmed the operation and even explained that it traced a suspected terrorist of a foreign national to the Secretariat of the Nigeria Labour Congress. The Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the appeal filed against the Tribunal and Court of Appeal judgments by the candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the Kogi State governorship election, Murtala Ajaka, to a date that will be communicated to the parties. The Apex Court also declined a request by Mr. Ajaka's counsel for the constitution of a full panel of 7 justices to hear and determine his appeal. The Apex Court equally reserved judgment in the appeal filed by the candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the Bayelsa State governorship election, Mr. Timipri Silva, to a date that will be communicated to the parties.
The courtroom is filled to capacity as the Supreme Court commenced hearing of the appeal filed by Mr. Murtala Ajaka, challenging the verdict of the Tribunal and Court of Appeal, which affirmed the election of Mr. Usman Ododo as the governor of Kogi State. At the hearing, counsel to Mr. Ajaka informs the court that he had applied to the Chief Justice of Nigeria to allow a full panel of the Supreme Court to hear the appeal, but he is yet to get a response. Counsel to the respondents kicked against the application and urged the court to proceed with the hearing. In a short ruling, Justice Garba Lawal, who led the 5-man panel, held that election appeals are time-bound and the court, constituted as a 5-member panel, had the jurisdiction to determine the appeal as presented. The 5-member justices of the Apex Court therefore proceeded with the hearing of the appeal and later reserved judgment.
2024, we had comprehensively articulated our position that both the tribunal and the lower court were wrong in expunging the evidence of an INEC witness who testified as PW1, Abdul Malik Njida, as well as the BVAS machines tendered through him, which were expunged from the record.
The 2 appeals arising from the Kogi governorship election came up today, the one from the SDP and the one from the AA. They were argued and we await judgment. Judgment was reserved.
In a similar appeal filed by the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Timipri Silva, challenging the election of Mr. Doye Diri as the governor of Bayelsa State, the 5-man panel, after taking argument, again reserved judgment.
We have done our best and we are still, that's the way you have put it, we are very confident that the courts, the decision will go in our way. And in any event, the court has the power, it has the discretion, to give judgment in the way the law appears to them.
The Apex Court will determine the date to deliver the judgment and communicate same to the parties.
A former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onogen, will, on the 20th of this month, at the Court of Appeal in Abuja, resume his legal battle against the judgment of the Code of the Conduct Tribunal, CCT, that ordered his removal from office in 2019. Now, the former head of the Nigerian judiciary and the suit filed at the Court of Appeal since 2019 is praying the Court of Appeal to void and set aside the CCT judgment delivered against him on April the 18th, 2019. In his appeal, Justice Onogen, through his lead counsel, Adigboyega Awomolo, is asking the appellate court to quash his conviction primarily on the ground of want of jurisdiction, bias, and absence of fair hearing. The Code of Conduct Tribunal had in 2019 convicted Justice Onogen in all the 6-count charges of breach of Code of Conduct for public officers brought against him by the federal government while in office as head of the country's judiciary. In the lead judgment delivered by Chairman of the CCT, Danladi Yakubu Umar, he had ordered the immediate removal of Justice Onogen from office as the CJN. The tribunal had also stripped him of all offices earlier occupied, among which were the Chairman of the National Judicial Council and also the chairmanship of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. The tribunal also ordered the forfeiture of his 5 bank accounts and the money in the accounts, which Justice Onogen did not declare in his asset declaration form submitted to the Code of Conduct Bureau, an agency of the federal government. In part 2, after the break, residents of Ibeno local government area in Akwa Ibom State cry out for help following pollution of communities in the council area after weekend's oil spill. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live from Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS network of anti-corruption holds its General Assembly in Abuja, considers strengthening laws to ease asset recovery, especially stolen ones in the sub-region. After a long and winding road, the Supreme Court is set to give judgment in the governorship election tussle in Bayelsa and Kogi states. Reserves judgment for a date to be communicated to the parties. A devastating loss as family of 5 in Sokoto die after mistakenly consuming fertilizer. State government describes incident as tragic. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says now is the best, maybe last opportunity to secure a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. The president of the Nigerian Bar Association NBA, Mr. Yakubu Mekiao, says the association is set to officially launch a secured digital stamp and seal verification software. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja, he stated that the application will allow members of the association purchase digital stamps which can be used within the Microsoft Word interface. He adds that the software will allow the public to verify the authenticity of legal documents with a simple smartphone scan and urged members of the association to make use of the initiative when launched.
Whatever we do must be acceptable to the people, must be something that translates into a confidence-building process. The integrity of what we do must not be left to question. And that is why I'm really glad that this digital stamp and seal, secure digital stamp and seal that has been unveiled today is one that is on the back of a technology today that is the best technology you can find in terms of the security of the project.
President Bola Tinubu has departed Abuja for Paris, the capital of France, for what has been described a brief work visit. According to the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the president and his entourage traveled in the new Airbus A330, which replaced the 19-year-old Boeing B737-700 bought under the presidency of President Olusegun Obasanjo. He stated that the new plane, bought far below the market price, saves Nigeria huge maintenance and fuel costs, running into millions of dollars yearly. He adds that the recommendation to replace the old plane followed an investigative hearing by Nigeria's parliament that questioned the plane's safety record and cost efficiency, especially after it malfunctioned during a trip to Saudi Arabia. The plane has also been one of the aircraft seized by a French court following the dispute with a Chinese company. Sokoto State Commissioner for Health Asabe Balarabe has confirmed the tragic death of 5 people from the same family after consuming food prepared with a local fertilizer popularly known as Gishirin Lale. The incident happened in Kaura Wanke village, Shagari local government area of the state. According to the commissioner, the tragedy occurred when the victims consumed the food prepared with the substance, mistaking it for seasoning. She says 3 of the victims died on Friday, while the other 2 died in hospital yesterday. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has given the federal government a 21-day notice of its plans to embark on a nationwide strike. Sources within the National Executive Council of ASU, who confirmed the developments, said the notice was issued at the end of the NEC meeting, which was held at the University of Ibadan. Members were said to have deliberately discussed on the current state of the affairs, and a copy of the notice is expected to be transmitted to the Federal Ministries of Labor and Education and other key stakeholders. A member of the NEC said, quote, "It is not an ultimatum, but a strike notice, which is a requirement under the labor laws," end quote. ASU had threatened to embark on strike over the non-implementation of agreements reached with the federal government long before now. On June the 26th, the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, invited the union to a meeting to deliberate on the lingering issues affecting the universities and to avert the planned strike. Queues have resurfaced in parts of Lagos as scarcity of premium motor spirit, or PMS, persists in the nation's commercial capital. On the visit to some petrol outlets along Bagada and Iyanoworo expressways, a Prices range between 568 naira and 620 naira with long queues. Some motorists who spoke to Channels Television appealed to the federal government to help bring an end to the continued scarcity of petrol in the country.
Fuel is our power. So without fuel, we cannot move. So we are appealing to him to look into our matter. Just do something about this fuel matter and Nigeria matter. Food is very cost, fuel is very cost. As if fuel is 600 something naira. We suppose enter the filling station, but we're not supposed to do stress like this to get fuel for 600 plus. So we are appealing to him.
We are begging government to help us because it is unbearable to feed our children for house and other expenses. Please, we are begging the government to help us on this fuel matter.
This problem is too much for us. We cannot sleep in the house because of we want to go and buy fuel. We appeal to federal government. Make federal government help us. Make this fuel scarcity today, tomorrow stop.
Following the recent outbreak of Mpox in some parts of the country, the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Jide Idris, has been speaking on the situation in Nigeria. Dr. Idris said many of the current cases are from the younger age group, though the disease cuts across all age groups. The Director General of the NCDC was a guest on Channels Television's breakfast program, The Morning Brief.
So specifically for Mpox, it is one of those diseases called zoonotic diseases. And let me, by the way, diseases of animals, primarily animals that get in contact with human beings and infect human beings. If you come in contact with somebody, you know somebody who is ill, who has the disease, avoid contact. If you are caring for that person, ensure that you are gowned properly, you are protected, wearing protective clothing, gloves, and nose covers, etc. It presents in a very typical way. Start with fever, body chills, muscle aches. But typically you have this rash that resembles smallpox rash. The rash starts from the face, it spreads down to all of the body, to the palms and soles of the body. When this rash starts with like pustules, they start exuding some fluid and becomes pus. And this is about the time they get infected. Unfortunately, many of these cases are found in the younger age groups. That's 0 to 10. But again, you have cases again cutting across all age groups from about 10 to 40, 50. We've been in contact with activated what we call Emergency Operations Center for Mpox. We've appointed an incident manager. We've started moving around and we've talked to people at the Port Health Services. People coming now are mandated to fill these declaration forms where several questions are asked as to, related to this disease, especially from those countries where these diseases have occurred. So far in this country right now, we have 39 confirmed cases, and luckily for us, no deaths. We met with all the healthcare commissioners in all the states just to enlighten them again to ensure that they too establish their own emergency preparedness systems.
Still ahead on the news at 10, NNPC Limited confirms plan to roll out premium motor spirit from Port Harcourt Refinery by September after multiple postponements. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's now head to the nation's capital where Terry Ikumi is standing by to go to the very latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Terry.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Let's go to Akwa Ibom State now, where more than 27 coastal communities have been thrown into panic following a fresh oil spill allegedly by Mobile Producing Nigeria Unlimited offshore facility, which occurred in the area last week. Residents of the affected communities, mostly in the Ibeno local government area, are asking the relevant authorities to move in and clear the pollution.
It's another case of oil spill in Akwa Ibom State.
Because the impact of oil is also negative.
This time, about 27 coastal communities have been thrown into panic following the fresh spill, which allegedly emanated from a mobile-producing Nigeria Unlimited offshore facility, which occurred in Ibuna local government area of the state last week. The spill is said to have polluted the water bodies of the affected communities and destroyed aquatic lives.
As you stand now, when you reach 7 years for our side, don't say you go die. Don't say you go die because the health where we breathe carbon dioxide, they send out carbon dioxide, and the thing that affect our lungs. So
Mobile purposely neglects their duty. They deprive the right of the people. They damage the quality life and the environment.
Oil spill damages our fishermen's products, destroy their nest accessories, kill northern fishes, destroy our seashore.
Meanwhile, the Akwa Ibom State government, through the Commissioner for Environment, says it's aware of the development and has visited the area in company of officials of the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NASDRA, for proper investigation to determine how to proceed. The expectation is that details of the investigation will be made public as soon as possible and relief can come to those affected.
As part of efforts to ensure food security, the military has announced the deployment of troops across the north to guard against attacks by bandits and kidnappers. In a statement made available to journalists in Abuja, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, says with the commencement of the rainy season, troops are currently deployed in several parts of the north, particularly in the northwest and north-central states, to provide protection for farmers. The statement adds that the deployment has enabled several farmers access to farms for a hitch-free planting season towards a bumper harvest. And as part of efforts to reposition the People's Democratic Party ahead of the 2027 general elections, some members of the party under the umbrella of the PDP National Rebirth Group are asking elected members of the party to shun anti-party activities. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the national coordinator of the group, Mr. Franklin Edede, says it is unhealthy for a member of the party to be engaged in the commissioning of the office of another political party while still being a member of the PDP. The group, while passing a vote of confidence on the leadership of the party, appeals to dissatisfied members to explore the option of joining other political parties instead of attempting to destroy the PDP.
We are vehement, we are unequivocal about it, that Ikenga should mind where he is going. If Ikenga, like it is being, speculated that he is making arrangement to leave for APC, that Ikenga should quietly leave and stop destroying this party that we are trying to arrange to see how we'll be able to remove this APC that has cost us more, and nothing but pain in this country. We are calling on this party. We are reiterating our resolve. We are reiterating our decision in calling this national leadership of the party to do everything humanly possible to make sure that Ikenga is suspended and subsequently expelled from this party.
President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of a new management team for the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, to be headed by engineer Jennifer Adigije as the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer. The 6 other members appointed are Engineer Abdullahi Kasim, Executive Director, Generation, Engineer Bello Babayo Bello, Executive Director, Networks, Mr. Emmanuel Lumioji, Executive Director, Corporate Services, Mr. Omololu Agoro, Executive Director, Finance and Accounts, Engineer Moregi Ogbedehama, Executive Director, Strategy and Commercial, and Barrister Stephen Adzenge, Executive Director, Legal Services. According to the statement by the Special Advisor to the President, Ajurin Gilali, the President expects the appointees to deploy their expertise and experience to drive the NDPEHC's mandate of effectively managing the national integrated power projects. Well, that's all from the nation's capital. The news continues in Lagos with Ayo.
Thank you so much, Terry. Operatives of the anti-kidnapping unit of the Kaduna State Police Command have arrested 2 notorious gun runners who specialize in fabrication of locally made guns. The suspects, Abdulaziz Habibu and Nuhu Thomas, both residents of Dogondawa in Birnin-Gwari local government area, were arrested by the police anti-kidnapping unit in possession of a fabricated AK-47 rifle at Madachi village in Zaria. According to a statement by the Public Relations Officer of the Kaduna State Police Command, ASP Mansur Hassan, the suspects confessed to being involved in the illicit trade of arms, supplying weapons to notorious bandits operating in Zaria general area. He explained that the confessions was the suspects have provided crucial leads as they are currently cooperating with the police in ongoing investigations aimed at identifying and apprehending their accomplices. In a separate operation, police operatives at Tafa Division also apprehended a 35-year-old man who works as an informant to bandits in Kagarko local government area of Kaduna State. The suspect, Abubakar Yahuza of Gidan Abi village, was confessed to running errands and serving as an informant for the kidnappers who reportedly hibernate within the Gidan Dogo forest. Police operatives also rescued 2 farmers who were abducted by bandits at Kuriga in Chikun local government area. That's Kuriga village during an exchange of gunfire on Sunday, August the 18th. So let's get the very latest from the world of business, and we have Joke Rogers. Joke?
Thank you, Aya. Welcome to Business News. After multiple postponements, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says the Port Harcourt refinery will start producing premium motor spirit in September. The chief financial officer of the state oil firm, Umar Ajia, who made this known to journalists, confirmed that the refinery has begun production and the product will soon be submitted to regulators for certification before being released to the market. Mr. Ajia also dismissed rumors about resumption of subsidy payments, claiming instead that the NNPC Limited is only covering PMS importation shortfall. Meanwhile, the federal government says it will commence sale of crude oil in Naira to Dangote refinery with effect from October 1. The Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, made the announcement in Abuja today during a meeting with the Implementation Committee of the Transition to Crude Oil Sales in Naira. Other issues discussed include key roles for stakeholders such as the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and the African Export-Import Bank to ensure smooth implementation. The minister confirms that these directives are on track for implementation from September. Well, passengers in Lagos State will have the chance to enjoy a super premium ride in a Rolls-Royce. That's because US-based global mobility and urban services platform InDrive is elevating its users' experience in the state with an exclusive Dream a Ride initiative. The limited time offering, which runs from August the 17th through to the 23rd, allows InDrive passengers to indulge in the ultimate luxury and comfort and prestige of a Rolls-Royce through InDrive. Speaking on the new offering, the senior business development representative at InDrive, Mr. Timothy Oladimeji, emphasizes the company's unwavering commitment to quality and top-notch services. In addition to its rapid growth, he says InDrive's priority is to enhance the quality of its service and to ensure that both passengers and drivers enjoy a seamless, satisfying experience. He further highlights InDrive app's impressive performance in the market, as it has consistently received high ratings, with most reviews scoring 5 stars, 90% from drivers and 79% from passengers, and was the second most downloaded mobility app in 2022. In addition to ride-hailing, InDrive, which operates in more than 700 cities across 47 countries, provides an expanding list of urban services, including intercity transportation, freight delivery, task assistance, courier delivery, and employment search. The domestic equities market begins the week on a bearish note as profit taken on the shares of Dangote Cement and 17 others pushed the main index further into negative territory, with year-to-date returns at plus 28.1%. Will Lebong tells us more.
Thank you, Joke. Last week, Investors had expected the market to close in the green, but those expectations were dashed as profit-taking weighed the index down. Today, negative sentiments continued at the NGX as industrial goods giant Dangote Cement share price lost 59 naira 10 kobo to close the first trading day of the week at 532 naira from its open of 591 naira. Now, this jumbo loss pulled the all-share index by 1.36%. The ASI went all the way from 97,000 points to 95,781 points. And it didn't stop there. Guess how much was lost from the market cap today? A whopping 748 billion naira. It went from 55,000 to 54,000 trillion naira. And definitely the industrial goods index did not escape the heavy blow as it tumbled nearly 5% in today's trading session. Let's look at other sectors now. Oil and gas, we see that boost in the closing in the green, 0.11%, and O&O sustaining the bullish momentum for that counter. Now for banking sector, with only UBA up in the Fuga's League, it's a surprise the index closed in the green today. Probably tier 2 banks providing a boost there. Now, can the markets recover from this bearish sentiments? Can the NGX regain the 100,000 level? These questions the markets will definitely answer as we keep tracking. And that's the stock market report. Will Ibong signing out.
That's business news tonight. Ayo, today back to you.
Many thanks, Choke. Still to come on the news at 10. Well, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says now is the best, maybe last opportunity to secure a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. This is John Sedon. Welcome back. Over now to Simon Pusey with our international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said now is probably the best and maybe the last opportunity to secure a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Blinken made his comments during a meeting with Israeli President Isaac Herzog on Monday during his 9th trip to the region since the war began in October. The US has expressed optimism about a deal since talks resumed in Doha last week, but Hamas says suggestions of progress are an illusion, with differences said to include whether Israeli troops will be required to withdraw fully from Gaza, as Hamas insists.
Probably the best, maybe the last opportunity to get the hostages home, to get a ceasefire, and to put everyone on a better path to enduring peace and security. I'm here as part of an intensive diplomatic effort on President Biden's instructions to try to get this agreement to the line and ultimately over the line. It is time for it to get done. It's also time to make sure that no one takes any steps that could derail this process.
Ukraine says it has destroyed a second strategic bridge in a week as it continues its incursion into Russia's Kursk region. The Ukrainian military on Sunday released aerial footage of the strike on the bridge, reported to be over the same river in Zvano. Hours later, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said for the first time that the aims of the military incursion into Kursk included the creation of a buffer zone to stop Russian attacks. Ukraine is nearly 2 weeks into its biggest attack on Russian territory since Moscow launched its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Italian media have reported that a body has been recovered as 6 people were still missing after a luxury yacht was struck by a whirlwind and sank off the coast of the Sicilian capital Palmero. 1 body has been recovered so far, with Fire Brigade and Coast Guard continuing to search for 6 missing people. The 56-metre-long luxury sailboat, which was British registered, had 22 people on board at the time of the storm. 15 people have been rescued.
And we found this life raft.
Yeah.
Drifting.
But with anything inside?
With 15 people inside.
15 people
15
inside.
people inside. 4 people injured. 3 heavy injured.
Yeah.
And we brought them to our ship. And then we communicated with the Coast Guard, and after some time the Coast Guard came, and later they picked injured people, and when we 2 hours later, they picked up the other people.
Opposition supporters have gathered across Venezuela to protest against Nicolas Maduro's disputed victory in last month's presidential election. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado joined thousands of protesters in the capital Caracas and urged them not to be afraid. Ms. Machado, who had been in hiding after being accused of insurrection, said there was nothing above the voice of the people and that the people had spoken. Police and the army were deployed in force as supporters of Mr. Maduro also held a demonstration. Kamala Harris has arrived in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, where she will be formally confirmed as the party's presidential candidate. She flew into O'Hare Airport on Air Force Two after a day of campaigning in the swing state of Pennsylvania with her running mate Tim Walz.
You know, they do polls and this stuff, and I'm at like 93%.
Her Republican rival Donald Trump held a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday. Ms. Harris is expected to join President Biden on stage when he addresses the convention later on Monday evening. Pennsylvania has been a crucial battleground in recent presidential races, with Donald Trump winning the state in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. And a powerful earthquake has triggered a volcanic eruption in the Kamchatka Peninsula. The 7-magnitude quake caused the area surrounding the Shiveluch volcano on the far eastern coast of Russia to be covered in a layer of ash following the eruption. There were no reports of damage or injuries in the immediate aftermath of the quake. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's under-20 female football team, the Falconets, have arrived in Bogota, the capital of Colombia, ahead of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, which will kick off from August the 31st. The Falconets' final phase of preparation for the 23-day championship will include tough tests against Australia and Mexico. They go up against the Australians on Friday, August the 23rd, and then confront the Mexicans 3 days later. They will play in Group D alongside Germany, Venezuela, and Korea Republic. That's it on sports. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
And the main news again. The ECOWAS network of anti-corruption today held its General Assembly in Abuja as it considered strengthening laws to ease asset recovery, especially stolen ones in the West African sub-region. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. You have a good night.